Hi, welcome to Brain Training for Sport Performance. I'm Dr. Martin Emming. In this lecture we'll look at applying mindfulness to sport performance. We've seen in a previous lecture that competition, strain, nerves, stress, anxiety, etc. can cause changes to the way that we process information and the way that we use our brain. Typically, you can have a response from the limbic system while the brain's under default network, and this can lead to automatic negative thoughts and loss of performance. But mindfulness training is thought to promote function in the prefrontal cortex so that when you do face competition, strain, nerves, or stress, you're using this area to make your decisions and maintain your performance. With the prefrontal cortex, you can ensure that the limbic system doesn't take over, and also that you can maintain your focus and also maintain high performance. If mindfulness training does enhance sport performance, well, how does it exactly do this? Well, there's a number of reasons that are thought to be working. Number one, mindfulness training allows the individual to stay present in the moment as opposed to lingering in the past or projecting too far into the future. Mindfulness training is also thought to help people avoid mental rumination, this negative self-talk which can often impact our own performance. Mindfulness training also helps to focus on the process, not the end result, and this is very similar to maintaining awareness or focus in the present moment as opposed to getting too far ahead. Mindfulness training is also thought to promote ignoring intruding thoughts and feelings which can cause distractions or change decisions. It also helps to accept positive and negative thoughts. Both negative thoughts and positive thoughts are naturally going to arise in competition, particularly when there is strain, nerves, or stress. We need to learn how to accept these, particularly the negative thoughts, as often people tend to want to not deal with the negative thoughts, although their performance starts to become negatively affected by it. Mindfulness training also helps individuals to utilize associative strategies. Associative strategies is what allows us to form new memories. Mindfulness training also helps us to avoid over-arousal. A certain level of arousal is needed to promote good performance, but if we go over the hill, so to say, then this extra arousal can actually deteriorate our performance. And then finally, mindfulness is thought to promote what is called a flow state. A flow state is the experience of being in the moment where time seems to slow down and the person is very much focused on what they're doing. The flow state is often achieved when the level of challenge meets the level of skill. Now, the level of challenge can be modulated through mindfulness training so that at higher levels of skill, individuals can tolerate higher levels of challenge and therefore increase the likelihood of reaching a flow state. Flow states, by the way, are associated with very high levels of performance, particularly those who are an expert in their sport. We can generalize to think that mindfulness training provides the athlete the mental edge, because mindfulness is a psychological skill which can be trained. And when we train these psychological skills, we will have the following benefits. Improved concentration, which is what focus is. Improved decision making, making better decisions based on the stimulus or the situation we're in. Improved memory function, learning new strategies. Visual function, learning how to use the visual information that we are using to promote better function. And then finally, importantly, better emotional regulation. And this includes stress management, regulation of arousal, and also how to regulate those negative thoughts or negative emotions that can arise from time to time with competition. As an example of the evidence which supports mindfulness in sport performance is a study by Coffin, Glass, and Arnkoff from the Catholic University of America. They showed that exposing athletes to a mindfulness, what they call mindful sport performance enhancement program, did improve mindfulness, as we can see here in this graph. Along with improvements in mindfulness, they also demonstrated that athletes also increased their level of sport confidence after receiving the mindfulness training. Kaufman, Glass, and Arnkoff also looked at what happens to sport anxiety with mindfulness training. And what they showed is that the levels of reported sport anxiety, particularly somatic anxiety, which is where we can feel nerves, tension, anxiety in our body, decrease with mindfulness training. Mindfulness training also was shown to reduce thought disruption after mindfulness training. This means that the individuals had less thoughts intruding into their performance. My colleagues and I conducted a 3-week mindfulness training program with athletes. We also had a group of athletes which didn't receive any mindfulness training. They were our controls. What we showed in that study, which is currently in review, is that the athletes who did receive 3 weeks of mindfulness training improved their level of mindfulness based on inventory scores, whereas those who did not receive mindfulness training did not show any change in mindfulness. Also in the study, what we found is that the athletes who received mindfulness training not only improved their level of mindfulness, but when we expose them to a bout of intense exercise, where they're really working to their maximum for a prolonged period of time, we then asked them how negatively they felt after that training. And what we saw was those who got mindfulness training had reductions in negative reactions to that training. So this would be negative reactions to the physical load or the physical exertion that they were succumbed to. Those athletes who were in the control group or did not get any mindfulness training had no change in their negative reactions to that bout of training. Let's consider some ways that an athlete can integrate mindfulness training into their training and competition routines. First of all, for mindfulness development to work, it needs to be practiced regularly. And so the athlete should include a formal practice every day. Formal practice could include a sitting practice or a laying down practice where they are purposely paying attention to an object, which could be their breath or body sensations. This regular formal practice will help enhance function in the prefrontal cortex. In addition to daily formal practice, the athlete can also have a brief practice before training or a competition event. So this could be seen as a preparatory practice, where they could have a short 5 to 10 minute practice where they can sit quietly, perhaps with the headphones on, eyes closed, and place some focus on their breath. Placing focus on the breath helps to relieve the nerves and tension associated, particularly before competition, but can also help the athlete prepare to focus in their training and competition. The athlete could also participate in very brief mindfulness practice within their training or competition event. This might include the 3-minute breathing practice, where that athlete can just find 3 minutes or less to just tune into the breath momentarily to keep their focus. This could be done while there is a break in training or a break in competition, for example. And then finally, the athlete could also introduce brief mindfulness practice after training or the competition event. This can help with the recovery process in terms of handling the level of competition strain, nerves, or stress that they're exposed to in training and competition. It can also help to sort of process what it was that they were exposed to, so that in the case that there are positive or negative consequences of that training or competition event, that can be managed appropriately to best move forward to the next bout of training or competition. Ultimately, the best way to see how mindfulness training can be incorporated into your training competition routines is to practice several ways. See what fits best for you. This can include which practice, formal or brief informal practices, you feel that you derive the most benefits from, and also how you integrate it in your daily routine, including around training and competition. This brings us to the end of our lecture. I hope that you found this lecture informative and useful for your own purposes.